Greetings, I'm Professor K, and in this short video presentation we're going to see how we go about promoting Server 2016 to a domain controller using Server Manager. In our previous video you saw how we went about preparing Server 2016 for promotion to a domain controller. We renamed it to something that was more conducive and easier to find and locate on our network, and we also assigned it a static IP address. Now this install is going to consist of two parts. There's the first part of installing Active Directory domain services, and then there's the second part of actually promoting it to a domain controller. Now to do the first part, we can do this one of two ways. We can either go to the dashboard and we can click on Add Roles and Features, or we can go up to Manage and we can use Add Roles and Features. So we're going to begin this process by using the dashboard, and I'm going to click on option number 2, which is Add Roles and Features. That's going to bring up the Add Roles and Features wizard. We're going to accept the default for role-based or feature-based installation. I'm going to click Next. We're going to make sure that we have the right machine selected. Since I only have one machine, it's obvious that it is the correct machine. I'm going to click Next. And from here we're going to select Active Directory Domain Services. And while we're in here, we might as well go ahead and install DHCP. We're going to click Next. Now you may be asking, why didn't he install DNS? Because during this installation, since DNS is not present, Server 2016 will do that automatically for us. We're going to go ahead and click Next, and we're going to click Next, and we're going to click Next. And now we click Install. Now that's pretty much all that's to it. So you don't have to install the DHCP role. I just did it as a matter of convenience. We have finished the installation, and now we're ready to promote this server to a domain controller. Now again, we can do this one of two ways. I can use this link right here, or I can go back up to Server Manager, and there will be a warning message there telling me that this machine is waiting to be promoted to Server 2016 as a domain controller. So I'm going to go ahead and use this link right here, and again we're going to bring up that Active Directory Domain Services Configuration Wizard. Now since this is the first domain controller in a new domain, I have to first create a forest. Now since I have a registered domain name for cyberoffense.com on the internet, and I have an internet presence, I'm going to create a subdomain for my internal network. So this is going to allow me to be able to keep my internal DNS separate from my external DNS. Now in the past I have used .local, but going forward I have done some research and found out that it's not the best way to create a network, especially if you're going to have to ever end up having to rename or rebuild the network. Again, when it comes time for you to create this forest, and it is going to be a production network, make sure you use a subdomain. I want you to understand the importance of configuring this first forest root correctly, because this is how Microsoft and now the industry all have come together to say that the best practice is to create a subdomain off of your primary domain on the internet. Now during the check, DNS was not found to be installed onto this machine, so we're having the option to install it now. This is why we did not check the option for the DNS role when we had the chance. What it's waiting for now is a password for the recovery mode for Active Directory. Now for this, I normally just use the same password that I have for the administrator account. The domain functional level is fine the way it is, but if you had a real production network and you had older versions of Windows Server such as 2012 or 2008, then you would want to set the functional level correctly. We're going to go ahead and click on Next. Now this warning about the delegation for the DNS server, it means nothing. Alright, you don't have any DNS delegation because it's a brand new forest and there's no reason to have any. So you can just ignore it. Click Next. Now the NetBIOS name is going to pop up here in just a second, but I'm going to change the NetBIOS name to something that makes sense to me. So I'm going to type in CyberOffense. You can change your NetBIOS name, just keep it below 15 characters. I'm going to go ahead, click Next. This is your last chance to turn back and make any changes that you want to make. So you want to make sure you look this over carefully and then click Next. The machine is now going to run through some requirements, and most of this stuff is just informational. Don't worry about the yellow triangles, they're not that important. That's just informing you that there's some backward compatibility issues with the cryptography algorithms, and that what's compatible with NT40 and what's not. Alright, so when you get down here to the bottom though, this is the one you worry about. The one that got the green check mark, that's the one you want to be concerned with. Now we're ready to go ahead and click on the Install button. Again, you don't need to concern yourself with these yellow triangle messages. They are the default, and they have been with this particular operation going back for quite some time. I recall these in 2003, 2008, 2012, and now 2016. Now, another nice thing about installing DNS during this procedure is that it will automatically build all the domain records for this particular domain controller. And so you don't have to worry about any of that. Everything's going to be done for you. And when we come back up, I'm going to take you into the networking adapter, and I will show you how it has IP'd its own DNS information using 127.0.0.1. The machine wants to restart. I'm going to go ahead and click on Close. Do be patient with these virtual machines when you're promoting them to a domain controller. There's a lot of stuff going on under the hood, and a lot of partitions being created. There's a lot of things that are being added into the server, and all that has to be done before you're going to be shown a desktop. So we're back up and we're working. We're at the logon screen here. I'm going to go to Input, Keyboard, Insert, Control-Alt-Delete. Now you see down here at the option, I have CyberOffense/administrator. That's who I want to log on as. Only the administrator is allowed to log on to a domain controller locally. So I'm going to type in my administrator password. This is the one that we created when we first installed this machine with Server 2016. Server Manager is up and running. I'm now going to go to local server, and we'll see that I'm now in a domain called us.cyberoffense.com. So let's take a look at what's going on with my network adapter. So as soon as DNS was installed onto this domain controller, it automatically assigned itself the preferred DNS server IP address of 127.0.0.1. While we're in here, we can go ahead and click on this notification, and it wants us to complete the DHCP configuration. We're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and click Next. On this next page, we're asked who is going to be authorized to create a DHCP server in Active Directory DS, and that's going to be the administrator, so we're going to leave that at the default. We're going to go ahead and commit, and we're going to say Close. Now you'll notice that that triangle is gone. That concludes this short video presentation on how we go about promoting Server 2016 to a domain controller using Server Manager. In another short video, I will be showing you how to promote Server 2016 to a domain controller using PowerShell. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns about any of this material or the content of this video or the lab, please don't hesitate to reach out and contact your instructor. And I'll see you in my next video.